But these are two major things that stick out to me when it comes to not moving on. And when I say moving on, I'm talking about from anything. I'm talking about from anything in your life. Anything that you need to move on from, it comes down to these two things often. So if you're ready, say yes. Type in the chat, say yes. You see the peace hat. We're about 10 days out for Protect Your Peace coming out. If you want the book, type peace in the chat or go to Amazon. Go to my website, TrentShelton.com. I need y'all's help. We close. We close to hitting some bestsellers list, but I need y'all's help. All right, so you haven't got the book, go get the book. It'd mean the world to me. What up, Ali? How you doing? What up, Polly? Look at this, y'all. All right. So I'm going to tell y'all like this. Number one, the reason why you can't move on is you have to understand this, man. And this is the nerdy scientific part. But you got to realize you got a chemical connection with whatever you're trying to move on from. That thing has given you dopamine, serotonin, aka that thing has made you feel good. That thing has made you feel excited at some point. That thing has given you energy. So chemically, your body, your mind yearns for that connection, right? It yearns for that feel good. Even if that thing gave you pain, you are chemically bonded to that situation. You have to understand that. And I know some people might say, oh, well, no, it's not the case. You are chemically bonded to that situation. Me with football, I was chemically bonded to football. It gave me so much significance, so much energy, happiness. Give me 1 second, y'all. Excuse the noise, I'm by a street, so I'm about to leave my car in about 2 seconds. But you are chemically bonded to it. So what does that mean? That means that you're going to be addicted to that situation. You're going to be addicted to that person, whatever it may be, chemically. Your dopamine, those things that make you feel good, oxytocin, serotonin, all the things that make you feel good, the happy chemicals. That situation is giving you that. So you have to understand that you are chemically bonded to that person or to that thing. So you say, okay, how do I change that? Well, it takes time. Number one, you got to take ownership, baby. You got to take ownership and realize that over your situation, what you continue to go back to will continue to power you. All right, write that in the chat. What you continue to go back to will continue to power you, okay? And the more you go back to it, the more chemically connected you become with it. So what do you do? Well, it's the first chapter, Protect Your Peace. First principle, you got to set some boundaries. You have to set boundaries to where you detox from that situation. You have to detox. And trust me, in the detox, you're going to want it. You're going to want to run back to it. You're going to fiend for it. You're going to need it because you were chemically bonded. Okay. It's just like an addiction, right? When you break free from the addiction, you want it even more. But you have to set a boundary, right? A firm boundary. And listen, I'm not going to tell you how to set it and what to say. But for me, I think about it as life or death, right? If I keep going back to this situation, man, I'm going to kill myself spiritually. Whatever it is that you got to say or put down or convince yourself, whatever opportunity cost you got to put on it to make you not go back to it, you have to do that. A lot of people don't move on because they don't understand that. They think that I'm going to just use willpower, right? I believe in prayer, a soul tie, right? To me, it's the same thing as being chemically bonded to that situation or to that person or to that environment. So you have to starve. You have to starve yourself from it. Okay. But also in this, you have to replace. Okay. I talk about this in the rehab process. Everybody write replace because you still want your dopamine. You still want your oxytocin. You still want your serotonin. You still want those feel good chemicals. So what do? Well, what did I do today? I went out here. I got a dopamine hit. Right now, I feel great. I went out here in nature. I walked. I ran. You can go, whatever it is, you have to replace it because if you don't replace it, the likelihood of you going back to it is very high. That's why people go to the gym. That's why people start something. You have to replace it because your brain is yearning for those things. Y'all understand that? Your brain is yearning for these things. This is That's why I don't judge people for going back to a situation. Like, it's chemically, like when we're chemically bonded, that is hard to break free from something. That's why I don't judge people when it comes to that stuff. Like, it's tougher than what you think. It's tougher than just, leave them alone. Don't go back to that situation. It's easier said than done. Real talk. But you have to be able to replace, not with a person. I wouldn't say replace with another relationship. Some of us do that. And what we do is we bring our hurt into a beautiful relationship, and that relationship suffers from our past. I wouldn't say replace with another thing, with another person, with another maybe toxic thing. I would say replace with something that is beneficial to your life. For me, it's trails. When I was going through my grief, it was trails. When I went through breakups in the past, it was me going to the gym. It was me reading. It was me working on my business, things like that. Okay. So that's number one. That's number one. The reason why you can't move on. Hope y'all still with me, because I got to go here in a second. Number two. Okay. So number one, you don't set boundaries. Well, number one, you got to set boundaries. Number one, you are chemically bonded, right? That's one of the reasons why you cannot move on. You don't understand that. Number two. Okay. The second reason why you cannot move on, and this is why people stay in the situation they're stuck in, is you have to fall in love with uncertainty, y'all. I cannot explain this enough. You have to fall in love with the unknown. My famous quote that people love to quote is, I say most people will rather stay in a known pain than move towards an unknown peace. Okay? Because our brain likes certainty. We don't like novelty. We don't like surprises. That's not what we're trained to do as kids. As kids, we're curious, but we love certainty. Even if the certainty is not good for us, at least we know what we're getting. So you have to be able to say, you know what? I'm going to live a life of uncertainty. I'm going to fall in love with uncertainty. I'm going to tell myself my future has my better. I'm going to tell myself there's a greater me ahead of me down this path. Even though I don't know where this path is going, I'm going to take this path because I know where I'm not staying, because I know what that leads me and I know what that gets me. But a lot of us, we don't move on because we're addicted to certainty. And that's crazy anyway, because nothing is certain in this world. That's what I want to tell you. Nothing is certain in this world at all. Nothing is certain. Some things are predictable, but nothing is certain, right? Your relationship ain't certain. That person that's hurting you, or situation, environment, it's not certain. It's not. Nothing is certain in this world. So every single day we're really moving in uncertainty anyway. We just don't look at it like that. So how would your life change if you went to go do something new? I heard this quote today, and it said this, and I'm going to paraphrase it in a Trent term. It said, certainty is the enemy of new. Whew. Certainty is the enemy of new. And I would even take it this far. Certainty is the enemy of breakthrough, because we'll never experience nothing new if we're addicted to certainty. And so in order to move on with your life, you heard me say this quote plenty of times. Moving on is less about what you're moving on from, and it's more about what you're moving on to. Why do I say that? Because what you're moving on from is a certainty that you know what it's going to give you. What you're moving on to, it's an unknown certainty, but it's going to provide you something different. I'm not going to say better, but it's going to provide you something different than what you're used to getting. And I would take the chances that different will be better. I would take the chances that new is going to be better than that mess that I'm settling in. So you have to understand this, y'all, as you're moving forward, but it's incredibly hard. That's why it's important to do the internal work. That's why it's important to take ownership over your life. You have to realize, like, don't feel bad. Don't shame yourself or feel guilt because you can't get over a situation. Like, you are chemically bonded to that. Like, your body is chemically bonded to those situations. It's a soul tie, as we would say as believers. And so it takes time. And it's incredibly hard to cut some off. It's incredibly hard to remove yourself. It's incredibly hard to detox. It's hard, especially when you don't, especially, how can I put this? Especially when you're afraid to be alone. Especially when you're afraid of, even your whole entire life, you've been codependent. See, when we have codependency, it's very hard for us to break free, because if we always been codependent, why do I spend a lot of time on myself? It's not because I like a long time. I mean, I kind of do, but I like to spend a lot of time with myself because I like to depend on myself. I like to know who Trent Shelton is, stripped away from everything. Like, who am I at my core? And the more I spend time with myself, like even on these runs, like I would love to run with people and things like that, but this is my alone time to figure out who I am. Like, the more I can enjoy my company, the more I will not be afraid or have fear of actually being alone. Do I want to be alone? Absolutely not. Do I think I'm going to be alone? Absolutely not. Like, I love being around people. But a lot of us, we're so afraid to face ourselves because we're so dependent. So we got to be around people to tell us how incredibly we are, because we don't know how to tell ourselves that. We got to be around people who validate our worth, because we can't give ourselves that. That's why I've said since day one, it all starts with you. When you learn how to give yourself certain things, when you learn how to enjoy your own company, when you learn how to fill your own cup up, when you learn how to love yourself, when you learn how to uplift yourself, when you learn how to be your biggest cheerleader, then you become unstoppable. And I'm not telling you to be alone. I don't want nobody living a lonely life. I believe we're meant for companionship. But we got to have the right companionship in our life. So I wanted to share that with y'all today, because I know a lot of people struggle with this. I know a lot of people, it ruins their life. And I know a lot of people can't figure things out. Like, why can't I get over this person? It's probably because you ain't got no boundaries with this person. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to cut off all ties. And I don't want to just say a person, a thing in general. You got to cut off all ties. You got to cut off completely all ties with things, because every single time you just think about it like this, and I'm making this up, but just think about every time you have the connection with the thing you're trying to break free from, it's like it connects back, right? And it takes that much longer to break the connection. Like, you can go through a year of healing, but it could take a second to get back addicted to that situation. That's why it's very important to set boundaries that don't budge. Like, your boundaries are there to protect you. Your boundaries are there to tell you when you're not listening to your common sense. Your boundaries are your common sense. Your boundaries aren't dependent on your emotions. Your boundaries are there to say, no, we're not doing this. Like, no matter how you feel, like, we're not doing it. We're not going back to this situation. Your boundaries are there to protect you. So I wanted to share that with y'all, because I think it's an important message. You know what I mean? It's on my heart this morning. I got to go. But those two reasons, like, we're chemically bonded, and because of that, we haven't set boundaries. And number two is we're afraid of uncertainty. You know what I mean? And if you're afraid of uncertainty, you're afraid to experience something new. So I'm proud of y'all, man.